$450 a foot, a little bit aspirational, but not crazy.
The amount of new hotels that have gone in around here probably would give you a fair amount of confidence.
This is a market that people want to be in. I think people are going to bid aggressively. I'm not going to say that it's not a good deal. I don't know that it works at the price.
So $500, can you rent space for 40 or 50 on the ground level? Not yet. Could you at some point in the future? Yeah, maybe. But what are you willing to pay for that today?
Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Anonymous. We're going to be previewing a 2-property office retail portfolio or adjacent properties, about 22,000 square feet. But I think we like it. There's a lot to like about this deal. Path of progress, a lot of good dynamic things going on in Savannah. Eric's wife is from Savannah. And then the other thing that we want to remind everyone here in the real estate business, if you're getting close to buying a deal, it should feel nauseating, which will make more sense once we get to the end of this one. Hope everyone enjoys. Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Anonymous. Brett Moss here with Elliot White and Eric Weatherholtz, clearly going to solve many of the commercial real estate problems out there for y'all. Anything interesting kind of this week? Elliot, I know you got a few balls in the air, and we're all dealing with some cold weather too, even us yahoos in Florida.
Yeah, we got a property manager who, she's awesome. She's kicking ass at this project we own down in Ponte Vedra Beach. And she transferred from Chicago. She moved from Chicago down to Ponte Vedra.
Hold up. The mean streets of Ponte Vedra Beach.
Believe me, that town is not ready for her. She is not taking any from anybody. She worked in like high-rise housing projects and now is working in this beautiful Class A deal. Brett, you know it. She's working at Cadence. Yeah. So she's kicking ass. Leasing's been taken off. She's been phenomenal. But I was giving her a hard time because she moves from Chicago, which has notoriously terrible winters, down to Jacksonville, and it fucking snows in Jacksonville. And she's like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah, take this back home with you.
Yeah. So not a ton new. We're busy. We got some deals that we're chasing through public and private channels. Fun stuff, but nothing I can really share yet. But as it becomes a little bit more real, it'll be fun to talk through the process of how we've acquired a few of these things. So
absolutely,
that's it for me. Brett, what's up with you?
Well, Eric and I were chatting before we started recording here, and it does feel like feels like survive till 25 might come to fruition here. A lot of folks, I think, kind of being forced to come to grips with the reality and that interest rates aren't going back to zero. And we have been extremely busy since the beginning of the year with a lot of BOVs and would anticipate a fair amount of those turning into assignments. And the good news is nobody has any clue what anything's worth today.
How many BOVs do you do per listing, would you guess?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Probably maybe 25% turn into listings.
Do you think that if you were a better broker, more would turn into listings?
If I was a better broker, the percentage would be higher. But I mean, a lot of these are people just kind of, can you give us a quick gut check BOV? Because we already know how bad of a broker you are. So a lot of the word out on that. It's just like, we just need something to put in the file. Yeah. So can your dumbass do it for us this in a couple weeks?
We just got to check a box. I'm actually about to send Berkadia 2 of our projects for a BOV that we're getting ready to sell, 2 affordable deals.
Okay. So, I would like to hear that.
Yeah, you've got your affordable teams.
Look at Brett in the room in the deal. He's got a piece of this right here.
Yeah, Brett, you got to glom onto that fee machine somehow. I'll send you the financials.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I'll burn my relationship with these guys.
Yeah, right. Like there's a lot of this stuff and kind of the affordable workforce housing stuff I should be able to help you out with. So as long as you know.
Go ahead and tap out an email right now, Brett, just to make sure you're send out that internal email that you're bringing.
Yeah. Wait, so this is quid pro quo. It's absolutely quid pro quo.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric, with your so fresh and clean look this week?
I got to get cleaned up. So we had snow in the ATL and the dirty, and we live looking out the front here. We live on a street where you can see a hill, kind of near an intersection. You can see people. We have had great entertainment watching people from the dirty South trying to navigate the snow on this hill, and watching the spin outs and general mayhem that's been happening. That's been a entertaining feature the past few days to offset the idea. And here's why people don't need to get into the development business. We've got a project. I don't even know if I've mentioned this little wrinkle before, but these things take forever. We've got even in things where you've got all the stars aligned, we're in a public-private partnership with a municipality, so you'd think you have all the wind at your back. And we ordered a transformer a year and a half ago.
I know where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
And the power company, who's in the business of supplying transformers, has no idea when it'll be delivered. No idea.
We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you when we get it to you.
So people seriously think about that. Like, people talk about the risks of building stuff, and you got financing risk and entitlement risk and lease up risk. Under discussed is the idea of transformer risk. You go through all this, and the one thing you need to open is to have power into. You got the buildings wired. You got the power on the street. You need a box. Those gray boxes that sit out on the corner of the street. That needs to sit there, and you got to have it. And we ain't got it.
I'm convinced that
nobody, and the people in charge of getting it to you kind of give you the I don't know. We'll know when we see it.
if it shows up, we'll call you.
Now there are other transformers available. Okay. The wait list on those, about 2 years.
And that doesn't sound like something you would ever think about having to deal with in the United States of America, but that's
But what if you even did deal with it? Let's get out in front of it. How about a year and a half lead time? Let's go ahead and put it in. Let's get out in front of it by a year and a half. And then the people that need to give it to you, I'm not real sure. I don't know.
Right.
Well, how can we look to see when it might be delivered? I don't know.
Well, we're doing the best we can. Well, I think on that topic, we did have an apartment deal that we sold during kind of the go-go days, maybe like very end of 21, and get it, and everything's going pretty smoothly. And as a dumb broker, when things are going smoothly, kind of heading towards a closing, you're just kind of waiting for something the boogeyman to jump out. And so get a call from our client, who's the seller, day before closing, and they say, we just wanted to make you aware that of this 300 unit apartment community, that like 260 units don't have a full appliance package, and like 150 of which have no appliances. And they're like, we need you to tell the buyer that's okay. And I was like, well, it sounds like you're asking us to rent like a box truck and go around to Lowe's and Home Depot for the weekend.
Or do you just what do you do? You put like a little campfire in there? And
I don't know.
Jesus. I looked at a deal in Atlanta where the GP had taken loan dollars to put in all new appliance packages in 200-something units, and then subsequently went back in and stole them all and sold them on eBay. So he took the loan money, bought the appliances, and then fucking went back in, took them out, sold them, and left the country and hasn't talked to his lender in a year, and the lender's still reluctant to foreclose.
I was like, how much money are we talking there? 200 units, let's just say full appliance package, 10 grand?
He's just a grifter. He's just this weird overseas syndicating grifter. Brett, you and I, on average, there's this Venn diagram of people you talk to and people I talk to, and there's a tiny little overlap of sometimes we talk to the same people. For the most part, you're dealing with professional organizations, and for the most part, I'm dealing with it's just the Wild West, man. It really is. It's completely crazy.
Well, I bet your bad debt numbers and collections percentages are higher than some of the really fancy deals out there right now.
Yeah, no, they are. Our collection percentages are higher. I think I would do well. Actually, our collection percentages on our Class A deals are nice and high too, because it's been sort of established that I'm a little bit crazy, and the residents are like, we'll just pay the rent.
Can we weave that into the conversation with the capital provider that maybe I'll call on your behalf?
Yeah,
he's just
tell them we're buying rough stuff.
Medium crazy.
Medium crazy and Section 8 housing tend to go well. You should tell them, like, don't worry, Elliot will fly down there and collect the rent himself.
Yeah. Like a bow-legged woman in a rock-kneed man, for a widespread panic reference.
Yeah. All right. So what do we got today? At the risk of this going totally off the rails, are we heading to Savannah? Am I right about that? Are we back in Eric's home state?
I think we are.
Eric,
so
are you the mayor of Savannah? Am I right about that?
I am forming an exploratory committee, so I'll
that sounds right. An exploratory subcommittee to elect Eric Wetterholtz. We got to order some merch that says Wetterholtz 2026.
Well, we still have I've still got my duties at HUD, so
that's right. I forgot about that recent appointment.
I was going to say, do you have to resign from one, or you can do both?
I think, I would assume a man like Eric could do both. But it's the way you can be CEO of 6 companies.
If you're called to serve, you're called to serve.
Yeah, fair enough.
So choose this
have you guys done anything, Eric, in Savannah? Have you guys done anything down in Savannah, Eric?
Savannah, we have poked around quite a bit. Fantastic town. So vying to be one of the top port cities in America. Incredibly active, growing international port up there with Long Beach, etc. Has the full faith of the state behind it. Lots and lots of distribution going on in the Savannah market, tied in with I-95. Really important port city. And then juxtaposed against this is one of the most charming historic downtowns in America, similar to, it's up there with New Orleans and Charleston. It's sort of the, you guys won't remember, but do you remember Jimmy Carter, of course, but do you remember Billy Carter, who was Jimmy Carter's brother?
Well, Jimmy's a Georgia guy, right? I don't know Billy, but they've got roots in Georgia.
Peanut farmer.
Yeah. So the whole, this is going back, but Jimmy Carter ran on this, the wholesome politician, et cetera. And then it came out that his brother, kind of a little rough around the edges, beer drinking guy. And to think about it in context, it's so tame compared to like a Joe and Hunter Biden. It's like Billy was kind of the redneck brother, really, because he was just sort of a beer swilling good old boy. If you think about Charleston or New Orleans versus Savannah, if Charleston is the Jimmy Carter, then Savannah is the Billy Carter.
The Billy Carter.
Yeah. Very cool. Little slightly rougher around the edges, but beautiful, wonderful town, and the downtown is home to a great college, SCAD they call it, the Savannah College of Art and Design. But an old grid system city with town squares and big live oak trees, and really fabulous.
What town would be the Hunter Biden?
Oh, that's a good question.
I do love that the Hunter Biden thing, he was just smoking crack with prostitutes and was like, I didn't know I couldn't do that. And people were like, that's fine. That's all right.
Maybe Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus is wholesome.
Yeah, Columbus is good. I'd say Toledo. Toledo's a real fucking toilet.
Oh my.
Or the best was, you guys won't remember this guy either, but Marion Barry, who was the
for sure, in DC.
Love that guy.
Didn't he go to jail? He was mayor, then he was got caught smoking crack, and then he went to jail and got out of jail and got reelected.
And got caught smoking crack again.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, Marion, come on.
You might want to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to strongly argue in opposition to that one.
America loves a redemption story, though.
They do.
Caught on tape, and he was like, "What?"
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah. So we've got, boy, we're having a hard time nailing this one down. We've got this deal here for people who are listening. It's two buildings. They're office, retail. It's like 2-3 story stuff. Downtown Savannah, being sold together, combined for almost 22,000 square feet of retail and office on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and they're asking $5,550,000. So they're asking a pretty clean $250 a foot, and off that number alone, built in the 1900s, early 1900, renovated in 1990. So it has been renovated in 30-something years. With that information, Eric, $250 a foot, how does that feel?
Well, where this is, we can pull up a map, but the shopping street of Savannah is something called Broughton Street, and it's really good. Great walkable street, kind of the high street of that part of the world, with a lot of fancy pants retail and beautiful buildings. Yeah, there we go. And so if you think about then the MLK Street, like MLK in any city in America, has kind of been knocked on its heels in a lot of ways. But so if you see this, Broughton Street dead ends into MLK, so you're 3 blocks away from the best part of Savannah, from a retail type thing. Bay Street is sort of the gritty bars. You look at the top of this photo, you've got the Plant Riverside District, which is a huge, very well done redevelopment that's happened there. So MLK, unlike MLK in most cities, is really has gotten a shot in the arm. The other cool thing about this is these buildings are right next to something called the Gray. Gray is a former Greyhound bus stop that was converted into a spectacular, really terrific restaurant. And so I think if this is, if the Gray isn't the coolest thing in Savannah from a food standpoint, it's
close.
It's close to it. So you got that going for you. So
which is nice.
Generally, there's a lot to like here. A lot to like.
Okay.
Now the 250 a foot. So if you're on Broughton, some of that stuff probably sold $500-600, I would imagine. The rents on Broughton Street can be, they were really pushing for. There was a big redevelopment probably 10 years ago. A lot of those buildings were acquired and fixed up in the sort of Urban Outfitters, J. Crew kind of world, Sephora kind of world. And rents went from $20 to probably $80. And some of those people have left, and it's settling back down. But that's not MLK, but you're close to it, and there's good things happening in Savannah. So, $250 a foot, a little bit aspirational, but not crazy.
And the type of retail that you think does well here, because you're just sort of around the corner. You're the end of Broughton. It looks like there's a restaurant called Repeal 33. Do you find that in these locations that are just off high street retail, does it need to be a little bit more of a destination, like a restaurant? Like, we are going specifically to go to here. It's not so much you're walking by and seeing a store selling art and you go, oh, I'll pop in here. Do you find that if you're not on high street retail, the tenant mix needs to be a little bit more targeted, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, there's certain people that that I think kind of hone in on the around the corner type locations. Like famous for that has often been Patagonia. They'll tend to post up in locations that are near the bumping area, but maybe a block off or something like that.
Yeah.
And, then that's also like the cool kid independents, like the Gray, for example, the idea of rehabbing a Greyhound bus station, a mid-century mid-century kind of bus station. The idea of that, cool. The fact that it's not on the main drag, that's okay, because presumably there was a discount associated with it when it was done. And so I think there's still kind of that there are the more inventive, the more entrepreneurial type folks would go a block or two off, but they do it for a discount. That's got to get baked into it.
So it looks like each floor plate's about 5,500 square feet. From this brochure, all I can really tell is they've identified one tenant, which is this restaurant. Presumably there's office of some sort on the second floor.
Right.
We don't know much else about it, honestly. So it can be a little tough there's no info on a rent roll. There's just one tenant where they talk about an NOI of $95,000 a year. So it can be a little tricky to figure out, is there enough income here to support this purchase price, or what you're really looking at is, I want to own kind of a cool around the corner space, and I'm confident I can fill it up.
It is a tale of two things that, if it says $250 a square foot, that's on two levels. And oftentimes, the office above in these things is
got to get rents are what, a third of what the retail space would get on the first floor?
Yeah, could be. So it's, another way to think about it in these 2-story buildings is it's $500 a square foot.
Right.
And so $500, can you, rent space for 40 or 50 on the ground level? Not yet. Could you at some point in the future? Yeah, maybe. But what are you willing to pay for that today?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And when I was scrolling the package here and just messing around on some of these third-party websites, I mean, the amount of new hotels that have gone in around here probably would give you a fair amount of confidence, I would think. It looks like Hilton's developing this 130-unit home 2 suites, like adjacent. And then kind of as I'm scrolling, is that the main campus for SCAD there, Eric?
Well, they're sort of scattered all over town.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Here's what we need to talk about.
Those might be housing projects in the back corner that I'm quite interested in.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. I mean, they're nice because if you look at the. Sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
Savannah is interesting in that there is some right adjacent to all the cool touristy stuff downtown are some affordable housing type things that make it unique, and they're very low density.
Whoa.
And has always struck me as a
look at
wonderful
that spot. Yeah, I've got Google Earth pulled up looking at this housing development, and it is super low density. Yeah, this has got to be. It's owned by the Housing Authority of Savannah.
Well, there you go. That's you, baby.
Yeah. Where's that? Yeah. Where's the qualified contract? Have you already gotten that started?
Yeah, believe me, I'm making a note here to reach out to Savannah Housing Authority. You think I'm kidding? It'd be great if I could.
We're talking about one deal, but Elliot's already bought another deal, so that's good. Great work.
You guys have fun with your retail building.
Be right back. I gotta go.
Be right back.
Yeah. So I was just kind of fooling around with the numbers. The restaurant's getting about $100,000 a year in NOI. That's what they're generating. If you assume that's one first floor space, if you assume that the second first floor space will also get you about the same, you got $200,000 NOI, and then you're going to make another assumption that the office space brings in 1/3 the revenue that the retail does. So you get about $260,000 in NOI, and I'm betting that they put a 5 cap on that. That's kind of how they tried to arrive at this price. Yep, that's pretty close. So they're asking just inside a 5 cap. 5 cap would be if those things are true.
Yeah.
5K would be 5.2 million. They're asking 5.5. That's also making lots of assumptions that you don't need to put any capital in up front in order to get those rents. And we don't know the condition of the building, so I can't say whether that's true or not. My gut says it's just not true because that's rarely true. But I do think you're right. It's probably an aspirational price. If you assume some level of TI, maybe you're a buyer around 4 million, something like that, which probably means I'm not the buyer here.
To me, the great thing to study says Savannah College of Art and Design is they have single-handedly transformed Savannah. So much of what's happened in downtown is this college that has incrementally, bit by bit, taken over downtown and made some incredible transformations of this cool existing building stock. There you go. Number one art school in the United States. Here's 70 buildings throughout downtown. Okay. Here's the shtick is it's effectively owned by one person, a woman who started this thing. And it's almost like someone started like a daycare in their house 30 years ago and then started incrementally buying houses, but doing it on the back of, it's a pretty complex web of, government student loans, government-backed student loans that are then paying you tuition that then allows you to buy buildings, and the more that you're buying, the cooler it's getting. And so she's created this incredible flywheel that do this long enough as she has, and you're effectively a private owner of a university and flying on a Gulf Stream.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that for-profit college deal is mind-blowing how much money these folks that own it is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's one of the great. This really is one of the greatest real estate stories of America. Is what Savannah College of Art and Design has done to Savannah, but they've also expanded internationally. They've got a big and growing presence in Atlanta, and it's a real estate company disguised as a college. It's fantastic.
Good for her, is what we would say.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. So how do we feel about this? We've got limited information. I assume none of us are a buyer at 5.5.
I don't think I am, but the one question here is, like, wouldn't the obvious buyer here, or wouldn't the first call be to SCAD?
Well, that call's already been made.
Right. So they said no thanks.
Yeah,
so.
SCAD probably said, put it out on the market. We'll see where this trades.
Right. See if those three knuckleheads from Real Estate Anonymous want to buy it.
Let's see if these dummies get a hold of it and rip it apart.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere around 4 million because we don't have much info in the other spaces. If they were occupied, presumably they'd tell you. There's going to be some non-zero amount of capital that has to go in to get those to a place where they're generating revenue. Feels like optimistically you're talking about $250,000 in NOI a year if you have your 2 retail spaces and your office occupied. And so what do you have to put in to get that? And what's a reasonable return? I bet you cap rates here are still 5. This is a market that people want to be in. I think people are going to bid aggressively. They're okay with a little bit of negative leverage going in because they think if we can get out of this in 12 to 18 months, we'll be fine. I'm not going to say that it's not a good deal. I don't know that it works at the price. Eric, what's this space better than Brett and I combined. What do you think about this one? You a buyer?
Well, huge fan of Savannah. My lovely bride is from there, and we have totally out of the question that we would end up spending a lot more time in that part of the world. So I am partial to it and bullish on it. I think I like that it's, this is in a micro world kind of path of progress as, my bet is this street in 10 years is better and 20 years is way better than it is today. I think this is the kind of thing that you'd want to have. It's feels pretty functional from what can be seen in the package. I think it would be something if a person had a little extra jingle in their pockets would be an interesting one to pursue.
Yeah.
I'm with you on I think it's too spendy at that price, but certainly start talking about 4 million, you got my attention.
With some regularity, I think about moving the company down to Savannah, Charleston, Hilton Head, something like that, and just optimizing for quality of life.
Well, I think the Sea Island deal might be your jam, Elliot, to kind of make sure that you run into some of the similar people that you did it for the cocktail stroll in Nantucket.
Sea Island?
That might be your thing.
Yeah, I think that's your spot.
Careful, gents. The way you're saying this, I'm not sure I love.
Yeah, very historic.
Your newfound and smoking jacket, that could be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd do well with a smoking jacket. All right, so we are interested and probably buyers. We're not just ruling this one out. We think it's got some juice. So
yeah,
and
I'd also say the diversity of the street names here has piqued my interest a couple times. Where you've obviously got MLK that we've talked about where the property's located. Oglethorpe. I mean, wasn't he kind of a Civil War, Spanish-American War guy, and then Broughton, I'm sure, is a Civil War. So, I mean, it's good diversity here, and then you've got this Chippewa Square thing here. So you're covering a lot of bases with just the street names and parks alone, which is very 2025, I would say. And I'm
very progressive of you.
Yeah, it's just like, not too
woke. That's a buyer.
Yeah, not too woke, but I'm paying attention to that.
I do think that's an interesting and underused piece of diligence of how do you feel about the street names?
Well, I think it's an all-important vibes. We talk about vibes a lot.
Vibes, yeah.
Vibes, baby.
That's what the guy in the T-shirt says.
Mm-hmm. Back to the light blue one today, gents.
We've got, and this is not related at all, but just near Sea Island appears to be a big Department of Homeland Security driver training campus. It's got all kinds of roads and racetracks and stuff. Might be fun to check out. Huh.
Maybe we can move that defunct mall from Pennsylvania down there.
God, that's the worst deal we've done. That deal still sucks. All right. Well, I think I am a buyer, knowing my yield will be tight going in, but that this is real estate that in 20 years I pick my head up and I'm thrilled that I own. It's similar to, remember that Newberry Street complex we talked about where your yields are going to be tight, but 20 years from now, you're going to think, holy shit, I can't believe we own this.
Yeah.
That's probably right. So you'll be slightly nauseated at the price going in, and but you'll survive. Keep the leverage low. You'll survive.
Survive till 35.
Okay. Well, I think I'm a buyer.
If you don't have a little nausea, you're not closing on anything.
Yep.
That's right. It's a great line there, Eric.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yep.
All right, give us a ring, Mr. Moss.
At your request, sir. This thing's been getting worn out lately. We need to find a deal that we all crap on next week, I think, because that bell's really getting worn out.
Yeah, well, 2 weeks ago I did a good job all over a tax credit deal, so I feel like we brought a lot of negativity to this one. So two weeks of positive, we're going to buy this, and then we can pivot next week.
Okay, all right. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll just find whatever piece of deal you're selling and rip that one apart.
Well, you guys hadn't picked on me that much this episode, so I'm glad we're getting it in here at the tail end.
No, we haven't. Eric and I are turning over a new, more positive and inclusive leaf.
Yeah, I'm going to start introducing myself as Brett the Whipping Boy Moss.
I did like the idea of only if the show shifted to only Brett Moss listing.
Yeah. And since we're in Georgia, we can
pound him.
The Whipping Boys at the Whipping Post for the Allman Brothers.
We only do a recording when Brett puts a new deal out, and then we immediately jump on and we just go, look at this piece.
Well, if y'all remember, I tried to suggest we do one of the ones we were selling from one of the first ones, and I think it was Elliot was like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I care about you too much to put you in a position like that.
Yeah. So.
Unrelated, but Rincon, Georgia is still for sale. That built for rent community still on the market. Shockingly, someone let that gem get away from him. All right, boys. This has been fun. I'll catch you all next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.